It's Wednesday, April 25th, and I'm your host, Paula Hersey. On today's show, we talk with Deputy Chief Matthew Sonneman about a recent armed robbery. We get a Sagamore Bridge update from State Representative Randy Hunt, and we talk with Barnstable High School senior Molly Autry about a panel she organized for fellow students interested in a career in technology. But first, let's start with some news you can use. Another day, another IRS telephone scam. The Barnstable Police Department has become aware of a telephone scam claiming to be the IRS. Several residents have received phone calls containing an automated recording, which states the Internal Revenue Service has issued a warrant for their arrest. The recordings give instructions on how to make payment to avoid prosecution. Please be advised that the IRS will not contact you via telephone regarding any tax-related issues, and that these calls are a fraudulent attempt to solicit money from unsuspecting citizens. If you receive any such calls, please contact your local police. The Cape and Islands legislative delegation, 6 state representatives and 2 state senators, sent a letter Monday to the Joint Committee of the Judiciary and Joint Committee on Public Safety and Homeland Security. They are calling for an oversight hearing to further scrutinize issue and identify lapses in the system. Thomas Latanowicz, a criminal with 125 priors, is accused of fatally shooting Yarmouth Police Sergeant Sean Gannon on April 12th while serving a warrant in Marston's Mills. We are shocked that Latanowicz has been criminally charged over 125 times, including numerous serious and violent crimes. His past criminal acts include violent abuse of a domestic partner, many charges of assault and battery, and attempted robbery with a dangerous weapon, possession of various illegal drugs with the intent to distribute, numerous charges for possession of illegal guns and dangerous weapons, witness intimidation, among others, the letter states. The delegation is asking to be part of the hearing and requested that several members of law enforcement also attend, including Secretary Daniel Bennett, Chief Justice of the Trial Court Paula M. Carey, District Attorney Michael O'Keefe, District Attorney Marion Ryan, Yarmouth Police Chief Frank Fredrickson, Somerville Police Chief David Fallon, Massachusetts Parole Board Chairman Paul Tressler, Massachusetts Probation Commissioner Edward J. Dolan, among others the committee deems appropriate. We need to take a deep look into the criminal justice system because the system somewhere had a flaw, said Representative Whalen. An armed robbery in Hyannis on Sunday was our topic with Deputy Chief Matthew Sonneman today, and a special 35th anniversary Officer Michael Azeton remembered. On the phone with me this morning is Deputy Chief Matthew Sonneman. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
I'm well. I heard you had some excitement out there with an armed robbery yesterday.
Yes, we did. It was actually on the 22nd. It was on Sunday at about 6 p.m. We got a call to the Cape Crossroads condominium complex on Bursa's Way for a report of an armed robbery involving a firearm. The officers who got there were met by a victim, a 20-year-old male from Yarmouth, who said that he'd been robbed at gunpoint by somebody that he knew, actually. So the officers began investigating, poked around a little bit, took a look around, and that the victim, they found out, had been driven there by a group of 3 individuals, and someone else was in the car that he didn't know. When they got there, the individuals in the car wanted to try and purchase some drugs that was not known to the victim. Once they got there, people then robbed the person they'd given the ride to. The acquaintances were identified as 25-year-old Zachary Enos of Truro, 21-year-old Noah Enos of Brewster, 19-year-old Taylor Holm of Harwich, and then there was a yet unidentified 4th person that was in the car. At some point, they decided that Mr. Enos, Zachary Enos, removed a handgun from his waistband and pointed it at the victim and demanded his money and cell phone. Then it's also said, the victim also reported that Mr. Enos threw the victim's phone onto the pavement to try and smash it so that he couldn't call for help, and got away with his money. It was about $320. then the 4 people jumped back into the car, leaving the victim there, and they took off. Leaving him in the parking lot. A couple hours later, we did. During the investigation, we put out a bolo to the other CAPE departments in the area, let them know what was going on. After the bolo had been issued, about 2 hours later, the Massachusetts State Police located the vehicle at Route 134, Cumberland Farms in Dennis. At the time, the only people in the car were Noah Enos and Taylor Holm, and they were taken into custody and brought back here to the police station, where they were booked for offenses including accessory after the fact. Right now, Mr. Zachary Enos is still out there, and the yet unidentified person is also still out there, which obviously we're trying to look to identify him. So right now, if anybody knows Zachary Enos or where he might be, we'd certainly appreciate a call and to let us know where he is, and we'd like to come get him.
All right. Also, you said the other unidentified person was male?
Right now, it was an unidentified male, correct.
Okay. So, people should be, if they know Zachary, definitely get in touch with the Barnstable Police Department.
Yep, and it can remain anonymous. We don't have to use your name. You can give us a call if you have any information. We'd certainly like to hear from you. We also have a presence on Facebook. You can send us a message through Instant Messenger. We have email. You can email us. This not just limited to a phone call, but certainly we'd like to hear from somebody if anybody has any information to help us out and find out where he is.
Excellent, thank you.
No problem.
You also have a 35th anniversary coming up. Can you tell us
Yes,
a
we
little bit
do.
about that?
Not really one of the happier anniversaries, but 35 years ago today, one of our officers, Michael Aselton, was killed in the line of duty during a vehicle pursuit. He was chasing a motorcycle and lost control of his cruiser and hit a tree. Today we're having a memorial mass for him at Our Lady of Victory in Centerville, and with all the other events going on, it's just a little more poignant this year than it had been in the past. I know some of the younger officers really didn't understand what it was about, and sure they heard the stories and everything, but really, hadn't experienced anything like that. But now it's a little more mindful of it. It's a little more present in everyone's mind right now because of the recent events.
And the park is right here by Town Hall.
Absolutely, and if anybody had wondered why that park was there, that's really the town's tribute to Michael for serving and giving his life in the line of duty. And people can go down to the park. It's a very nice place to be. A lot, particularly on the 4th of July, a lot of people like to gather there during the fireworks show. But there is a person behind that. There is a family that's still there, and there is a memory that still lingers. And we honor it every year, and today's the day.
Well, thank you very much, Deputy Chief. We'll talk to you again next week.
Absolutely. I look forward to it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye. The State House is in the middle of the budget process, and Representative Randy Hunt is traveling to Boston every day over the Sagamore and has some updates on the construction and timetable on its completion. On the phone with me today is 5th Barnstable District State Representative Randy Hunt. Randy, how are you?
Hey, pretty good, Paul. It's always good to be on the show with you.
All right, so how's your commute these days?
It's challenging at best, as anybody who's headed off Cape is known for a few weeks. The Army Corps of Engineers is busy on a major fix to the Sagamore Bridge, and what I mean by major is the joint that connects the bridge to the abutment, the big giant cement structure that's on the Cape side of the canal, is being replaced. So it's called an expansion joint, and it allows the bridge to move as temperatures change and the steel expands and contracts. But because it holds up that entire side of the bridge, it's a big deal. There's a lot of cement being poured, which means that there's curing time and that type of thing going on. And for all of those reasons and some of the other work that they're doing, they are not in a position to drag equipment off the bridge, over a busy weekend or something like that they are able to do when they're painting the bridge or doing something less major.
Right. Yeah, that expansion joint also is. I've always thought it was my shocks on my car, but it's actually the bridge moving as you're going over it.
Yeah, well, the joint that was there before was in need of replacement, and over the last 2 or 3 years, that just coming on to the Cape, you'd get quite a jolt from it, and that was because of the deterioration and the separate, the distance between the bridge and what's on solid ground there was getting bigger and bigger. So yeah, it was turning into quite the clump when you cross that bridge, and not good for your car. So I'm glad they're getting it done,
Right.
and I'm happy that the Army Corps of Engineers has the budget to keep the bridges in as good a shape as they can be. But we all know that what we need to do for the long-term good of everybody here on Cape Cod is to replace both of those bridges.
Yeah, and there is some folks out there that are the Fix, which is a coalition, I think, led by some of the chambers in the area, are trying to really look at this as a long-term solution, and perhaps replacing both the Sagamore and the Bourne bridges.
Yeah, that's exactly right. For the last 2 years, kind of happening in the background, but you can find it on the internet, all the meetings and drawings and plans and statistical information, all of that. The Army Corps of Engineers and Mass DOT and a bunch of us, probably 35 or so people representing different factions of interest in and around the canal region there, have been meeting, and the Mass DOT/Army Corps of Engineers now has a plan for the traffic changes that would happen in the area, some of which can be put in place sooner than later, before bridges are changed, and then some that would be the result of replacing those 2 bridges by the Army Corps of Engineers. So there's a master plan, and it has demographic data that goes out to 2040, and now all we have to do is have the Army Corps of Engineers finish its study whether to continue to maintain these bridges or to replace them. We all believe that the answer should be to replace them, and I think that's what we're going to get. That study will be concluded this year, and that will start the clock on having to deal with getting money to replace the bridges. It's a federal project. They cannot be tolled, so there would be no tolls on the replacement bridges, and they would have to be designed using the current highway standards, as opposed to these 1935 bridges, which were certainly not built for the modern day.
Yeah, the wider vehicles that are out there now, it's a little tight when you get 2 of those side by side coming off or going on to the bridge at this point. And obviously our highways are mirrored that as well. They're not as wide. Can you give us an update a little bit? I did hear that there was a light that went in at that Christmas tree on-ramp.
Yeah, we were looking to have a police detail there where the Christmas tree on-ramp comes up to the Sagamore Bridge, just to help bring down some of the dissonance, the noise that was going on with these 2 roads merging in right there at the foot of the Sagamore Bridge. We were not able to get that done for a number of reasons, but the state hired a contractor that does these temporary traffic lights, which are supposed to be smart enough to detect when there's cars coming from either direction and adjust its cycle. And what we found is it does take a lot of pressure off of the cars having to come together. Rather, you get, when I checked it the other day, you get 1 minute and 45 seconds of Route 6 going through, and 45 seconds of the Cranberry connector there that comes onto the bridge. And with that, it helps move the traffic along. But look, the bigger picture is simply this. With 1 lane in each direction on the Sagamore Bridge, the big picture is there's going to be backup. People are going to need to be patient. The Army Corps says they're ahead of schedule, which is the schedule is to finish before Memorial Day. And I hope they maintain being ahead of schedule. Looks like the weather's going to be good. And, maybe we'll be able to cut a week off of that if we're lucky.
That would be helpful for, I think, everyone there. I have a trip off this Friday afternoon, and I'm going to shoot for the Bourne Bridge and see what happens.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to the Bourne Bridge. I crossed the Bourne Bridge this morning when I was heading to Boston. The problem that we're running into is a lot of people are avoiding the Sagamore Bridge coming onto the Cape, and there was about a 2-mile backup at the Bourne Bridge this morning. So, even though we're just working on the Sagamore Bridge, it affects traffic in the entire region. And like I said, the long-term solution is to get 2 new bridges in place, and my goal now is to live long enough, hopefully it won't be more than 10 years, to go out there and help cut the yellow ribbon.
That would be fantastic. Before we leave you, Randy, do you have any updates from the House? I guess everything's kind of in motion for budgets at this point in time.
Yeah, every year it seems like we spring out of the gates at the beginning of the race, and then all of a sudden we find out that the track is really muddy, so it takes a while to get all of these things done. There are a number of amendments out. In fact, there's almost 1,400 amendments to the budget this year, so we'll be blasting through those all week long. And some of those are earmarks for various different projects. Some are much bigger in scope. And you just have to go through the process and argue your case as the week goes on. And in the end, we'll end up with a approximately $40 billion budget that will differ somewhat from the governor's budget, and that will then head over, it will be in a conference committee eventually with whatever the Senate decides to put out by the end of May.
So it looks like some busy time for you at the State House in the next week or two.
Yep. We should be done this week, I believe. Okay. And all of us are here from 9 or 10 in the morning until I think we left at about 10:30 last night. 10 or 11 o'clock at night is a normal thing. The only good news about that one is usually there's not much traffic on my trip home, so the 60 miles is I can cover it in about an hour as opposed to coming in here, which takes me usually 2 hours.
Yeah, that commute in the morning, I did that many years off Cape, and it can be trying at times. So good luck with all the bills that are there that you've sponsored, and we'll check back in with you in another couple of weeks.
Thank you very much, Paul. It's good to talk to you.
You too, Randy. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Molly Autry, Barnstable High School senior, is going to college this fall and will be majoring in computer science and software programming. She was curious about opportunities for technology careers here on Cape Cod and assembled a panel of area IT professionals to come to school this week and lend their insight about the industry to students interested in the industry. The panel was diverse with talent and included Dave Fravel, a programmer, John J.D. Hawley, Chief Technology Officer for Convention Data Services, and Professor of Cybersecurity Louis Becko from Cape Cod Community College, and myself, a former web developer and past president of the Cape Cod Technology Council. Molly spoke with me after the panel and shared a few thoughts on the resources and opportunities she learned from this panel.
My name is Molly Autry, and I am a senior at Barnstable High School. I did the tech panel because there's such a high demand for technology jobs, whether it be software, coding, network infrastructure, what have you. And I think that there are a lot of kids who don't realize that there's such a need for these jobs. And especially, growing up on the Cape, it's wonderful and great, but you're not sure what is there for you, especially in tech. Usually kids think of Silicon Valley or even Kendall Square in Boston when they think of technology. And so I put together the panel just to show kids who are interested in tech that there are opportunities on the Cape. There are technology services and companies and people who actively work in tech, and that those opportunities are there and they are plentiful. I looked around various websites on the Cape. I knew Mr. Fravel. I'm friends with his daughter Keely. So I was familiar with the work he did. And Professor Bico had come in and talked to my AP Computer Science class, and I knew that Cape Cod Community College had a really renowned program with security and with infrastructure. And then I found the Cape Cod Tech Council online, just doing my research on local professionals in tech, the Cape Cod area. And I found Mr. Holly and yourself through the Cape Cod Tech Council. I think it was a chance for them to really just kind of informal, casual discussion with professionals on the Cape, and for them, I hope that they took away the chance for opportunity, and that there are people, the importance of making connections, of resources that they can use, and just hopefully to know that there's stuff to do with tech on the Cape. There's plenty to do. That is an ever-evolving, ever-changing field. It was a great opportunity for me to really listen to how people got into the tech field. I am about to embark on right now my plan is for a computer science degree. And so just listening to everyone's story of how and why they got into tech, it's just great to hear the different paths people took, the different resources that they used. So our tech department works with all the schools in the district, and right now they're really trying to integrate the use of iPads and Google Chromebooks with teachers into their lessons and into the classroom, kind of combining traditional learning with these tools that are at their disposal. Right now we have an AP Computer Science class for seniors, and so that's really part of my internship right now too. It's helping to integrate Barnstable more of technology and to help people see that these tools are available for them. So I think that's really the tech department's strength, is they have all these tools and now they're showing the teachers and the students that they're at their disposal to help you in whatever area you need, whether it's help in math or maybe it's just for a tool to use in the classroom. It's a fairly new thing for me. Up until last year, I wanted to study geology. But it's always kind of like been nagging me just to see what it's all about. It's been a growing interest for a little bit. And I mean, I love movies. I'm an avid moviegoer, and I love being transported to this different world, whether it's watching Star Wars or Marvel. And I really started to read up on the technology that goes behind making these incredible shots and these incredible worlds, and that's what I want to do. I would like to get into software with computer graphics and the entertainment industry, making those incredible landscapes and transporting people somewhere else and helping to tell a story. And I just think it's really cool that you can use science and technology to create something so unique and just amazing.
Here's a look at the community calendar. Cotuit Library is now doing in-house tech classes on the last Wednesday of every month. This month's discussion is the newest app from Overdrive for downloading free ebooks and audiobooks from the library, Libby. Please bring your own personal device to practice on, but laptops are available for use at the library for those who need them. Registration is required for attendance. The classes are a maximum of 8. This program is free, but please register at cotuitlibrary.org/events or contact the library. Tales of Cape Cod will lead off the 2018 season with Boston's Anthony Amoore on April 27th. Amoore is the head of security and chief investigator at the Isabel Stewart Gardner Museum in Boston. He's been described as among the most innovative and effective museum security directors in the world. He also heads the museum's own investigation into the 1990 theft of 13 priceless works of art, the largest property theft in world history, which went down before Amoore's watch. Tales Summer Living History Series, 20 programs in all this season, is held at 7 p.m., most often on Monday evenings in July and August at the Old Colonial Courthouse on Route 6A. For membership info, visit talesofcapecod.org or plan on buying your tickets at the courthouse door when Amoore comes to town April 27th. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow for our weekly conversation with Town Manager Mark Ells, Marston's Mills residents' reaction to the Streetscape project, and an update from Town Council. As the weather has finally warmed and the forsythia and daffodils bloomed, we leave you with this quote from Mark Twain. It is spring fever. That is what the name of it is. And when you've got it, you want. Oh, you don't know quite what it is you do want, but it is just fairly makes your heart ache. You want it so. I'm Paula Hersey, and thank you for watching Barnstable Today.